Part three of our elements of handicapping is speed. And this is certainly a most important one. And what we do is we take the pars, meaning the average for all 10 contenders for four different speed figures: the Beyer speed figure, the Brisnet figure, the Equibase speed figure, and the thorograph. And I should note for the thorograph, there's an asterisk by that because I was not able to get information on resilience. So we don't have a thoroughbred for that. So the average is not quite perfect. So please keep that in mind. But I think we have enough other data for resilience to come up with a pretty good frame of reference for it. So just a quick note on the speed figures. This Beyer speed, of course, is a measurement of the final time, whereas the Brisnet and Equibase are more incorporating. It's got an algorithm that incorporates pace and some other things. And then thorograph is a very comprehensive number. It looks at ground loss, it looks at post position, race shape, all those factors. So, and also want to note that the better the number, the more negative it is, or the lower. So, so when you look at the plus or minus, it has to do with, obviously, if a horse ran a higher number than the average, it would be a minus, and if they ran a lower number than the average, it would be a plus. So it's the reverse of the other three. So very important to take that into account. And then, of course, we have our subjective number, +2, -2, based upon our thoughts as to whether the horse is going to move forward, run a big one, or regress. So we keep that in mind. We take a look at Seize the Gray, the Preakness winner, first, and we'll see he got 100 Beyer, which is plus 0.89 above average. A 105 Brisnet number, which is plus 12.3 above average. Got a 101 Equibase, which is plus 3. And then the 1.75 Thorograph is plus 0.294. So this horse is progressing and moving in a nice pattern. And he gets an overall score aggregate of the 4 at 27.14. And I'm going to give him another point for progression. He's just moving that way, and I think he'll run another solid race. It remains to be seen whether in a tougher field that he can duplicate his numbers, but I'm going to give him I think he's going to run an above-average race. I don't know if he's going to run a monster for a +2, so there's still a little bit of doubt in there. But so he gets a total of plus 28.14. So now we look at resilience, and he ran an 89 for the Derby, which I thought was a little low, but probably about right for him, I would guess. It makes, I'm not going to doubt the Beyer numbers. He gets an 88 Brisnet, a 99 Equibase, and there's where you see the differences there. And of course, we don't have the thorograph, so he's a little bit below average, Beyer and Brisnet wise, but he's above average in the Equibase, and that kind of gives you the indication that resilience is right about in the middle of the pack. And he gets a negative 580. I'm going to give him a +1 because he's had a little time between the Derby, and this is a good horse who seems to be getting good at the right time. I just don't think he's got the top end to get it done. And more to the point, we'll reiterate, Belmont wasn't sure if the 1.25 miles is exactly what resilience wants. So he ends up with a minus 4.80, which is about in the middle of the pack here, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. It's probably not likely that he can run a speed figure that's going to be commensurate with a winning race. Now we come to Mystic Dan, the Derby winner, and you'll see for the Preakness, he got a 97, which is significantly above average. A 102 for the Brisnet, significantly above average. Right on par with an Equibase with a 98 and a 3 in the Thorograph. So again, the lower the number, the better. So he is plus 1.69 above average. It gives him a total of 16.89. Now, with form and class, I've noted that Mystic Dan I don't think is poised to run a good race, but speed-wise, He does certainly match up well with this, with the field. So I'm only going to give him a -1 because again, I just don't think at the third time in a classic distance, I think it has to catch up with him. But I think he can run on. He's certainly talented and he has enough speed to run a race where maybe he can get underneath with a little bit of regression. But I'm not banking on it. But he does get a plus 15.89, which is one of the better scores. We come to the Wine Steward. This is a hard-knocking horse, and I think his numbers really spell it out. He's a 91. He's a little bit below average. 93, a little bit below average for the Brisnet. 99 Equibase, a little bit above. And a Thorograph, he's right about a little bit above average at a 4. This horse runs his race every time. I don't think the 1.25 miles is going to be a problem. So his total is 1 plus 1.89. Again, right about at, right on par. And I think he'll run his race because he always does. So we'll give him a +1 there. Probably not going to be fast enough. So he gets a plus 2.89, right about in the middle. So we come to Antiquarian. This is a horse who certainly has a pattern of improvement. You got a 92 in the Peter Pan, a 94 Brisnet, a 101 Equibase, and a 3 for the Thorograph. So those are all above average. And then you have to think about horse who I definitely think is going to move forward from there and run yet another good number. So he gets a +2 there. We add that to the plus 6.89, and he gets a plus 8.89, above average, not quite at the top, but trending upwards. So we come to Dornoch, and this is where it really falls off a cliff. Obviously, the Derby was a really subpar race. He can run maybe better than that on a speed figure basis, but I really have my doubts as to whether this horse can run a number that's good enough to win this race. But so you look, and obviously those are all going to be really subpar numbers for the Derby. And I don't really think that he can run a race that's a winning race here. I think he's a cut below. But I'm only going to give him a -1 because he has had some time off since the Derby and perhaps can run better with a smaller field in particular. So a -52.36, that is the low. And I don't think that should be any surprise after his effort in the Derby. But maybe capable of a little better. We'll qualify it. So now we come to Protective, the career maiden in the race. And you see in the Peter Pan, he ran a good race. He got right about average, 89, 92, 98, right on par with the Equibase, and then a 5.5, which is below average Thorograph. I think this horse gets a -361, is a little bit below average, below the par. But I'm giving him a +1 because I do think looks like he's moving forward. Will it be enough? Probably not. So the -2.61, probably right on line with a horse who's borderline, but I think could probably sneak into the superfecta or the trifecta. Then we come to Honor Marie, and a little surprising that the numbers for the Derby were a little lower than I thought they might be. You see, the 82 buyer was pretty low. I thought I was really surprised to see that. 82 Brisnet. Also pretty low. The Brisnets tend to be a little higher than the buyers, so that's a little concerning. Equibase, again, below average, and the Thorograph, not terribly good. So the speed numbers for the Derby really did not come back very well. I'm giving him a -1 on the speed figures. He can run better than that. I think he certainly can, and with a late running style, I could see him getting into the gimmicks, but just not as high on Honor Marie as I once was. So he gets a really low -31.36. And if you consider he ran 8th in the Derby and did have some trouble, these numbers are really pretty glaring to me and really disappointing from what I expected to see. So come to Sierra Leone. He's the favorite in the race, I think deservedly so. And at 9-5, sorry that's not in there, but I'm sure you all know the odds. You see the Derby ran a big one, above average. The Brisnet above average. Equibase in particular was significantly above average, and then ran a really nice 1.5 on the Thorograph. This horse has not done anything wrong. I fully expect he's going to run another big race. So he gets a +2 for progression. You couple that with a +26.39, and he's at 28.39. I believe that's the top speed figure, and that shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. And now we come to Mindframe. This one is the one we're all watching, and we take a look at his numbers. And of course, we have to qualify this that they were at the optional claimer level, not at the stakes level, and that was a pretty weak field he ran against. However, this is a horse I think is running against himself at this point, so we don't take the field too much into account. Got a 97 Beyer, 97 Brisnet, Equibase a little bit above average, and a 4 for the Thorograph. He did regress off of that maiden score. It was around 2 turns, but I think this horse is certainly capable of better. He is not going to get as easy a go as he did in this last race, so he does get a +16.5. I'm giving him a +1 because he is stepping up significantly in class, and that was a pretty easy race. So, I do have some concerns, but clearly this horse has some talent. He's working up a storm, so I think he's one that definitely can factor in this race. So we look at our overall numbers, and of course in blue are our top numbers, and red are our bottom numbers. You see that Sierra Leone and Seize the Gray are at the top, and that shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. And you see the next couple below that are Mindframe and Mystic Dan. And then our bottom numbers, no surprise, Dornoch is at the bottom, significantly lower than everybody else. But Anna Marie was a bit of a surprise to me. I think can run better than that, but I do, again, have some reservations as to whether this horse can run a winning figure. But I think can rebound with a smaller field and late running style. The gimmicks look like a pretty good bet. Antiquarian is the one I think is one that I think can take a significant jump forward. Has that pattern, looks like a big one is in the offing. And, the Wine Steward I think is going to run his race. It just won't be good enough. Resilience is one that I can, kind of go either way with. The speed numbers that, that Derby, boy, he looked awful good at the top of the stretch, and then he just flattened right out. So it does make you wonder a little bit about the distance for him. And then Mystic Dan, the speed numbers are right in line, and they should be. He's definitely demonstrated speed. I do have more a concern about the distance for the third straight time, and I've been, I hate to keep harping on it, but it's really what I see as a limitation for a good race from Mystic Dan. So that's speed. We will follow it up with pace, and then our final assessment. You'll have those later on this week, and we'll have certainly a lot more content for the Festival of Racing. By all accounts, it looks like it's going to be a really great 4 days, a whole lot of great stakes races. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you are as well. So stay right here for the remainder of our elements of handicapping for the Belmont Stakes and all the coverage for the Festival of Racing. Talk to you soon.